Hey guys, hope you all are having a great week. Welcome back to the channel. So as you can see, I am in my car and I thought, I haven't done a car rant in quite some time. So I figured, you know what, I gotta run some errands. Why not? So do you guys remember when Eddie Murphy came out with Norbit? Remember Norbit? Eddie Murphy dressed in, as he always did, dressed in the fat suit and played the big, feisty, aggressive black woman. And do you guys remember how Hollywood and like some Hollywood people and the media and lay people all over social media jumped all over Eddie Murphy, all the fat phobic people jumped all over Eddie Murphy about this character playing the fat black woman, as if that's a new thing. But they jumped all over him, and Tyler Perry actually came to his defense saying, hey people, it's just jokes, it's just comedy, like everybody just calm down, relax. Like, Tyler Perry made his whole career off that, playing a older big black woman. So he came to Eddie Murphy's defense, and it was kind of like, I feel like it was really a kind of like a turn or a show of things to come, of people being really, really overly emotional about comedy. Now, or not just about comedy, but people being overly emotional about everything, right? Because this is a thing that used to happen all the time. And so this was the first time I remember, because when Eddie Murphy made the clumps, everybody went and everybody saw it and everybody laughed and everybody thought it was funny. But when he made the Norbit movie, and even Tyler Perry, like I said, made his whole living on this whole Medea character, and everybody's been laughing and going along like nothing because it's funny. But when Eddie Murphy made that Norbit movie, everybody freaked out, and I thought, this is very interesting, and it was like, I thought it was a joke at first, but it wasn't. People were literally upset about it, and I thought, there's something weird going on here, something strange. There's a shift in the culture happening, that people are so sensitive about comedy. Now, fast forward, how many years later? I don't know when Eddie Murphy did Norbit, but I like Norbit actually. It's corny, but I thought it was funny. Whatever. But it's a Eddie Murphy goofy fat suit, kind of thing. But now fast forward, and everybody's talking, and fast forward to what happened with the Oscars, and Will Smith and Chris Rock making the joke, which was not even that big of a deal. It was like he said, it wasn't even that. It was like a very light joke. Honestly, it wasn't even a joke. G.I. Jane was beautiful. Shaved head and all. So to me, it sounded like a compliment, but whatever. But fast forward to today, and you got this whole thing with Will Smith and Chris Rock. Now, a lot of people have been talking about Will Smith is, probably not going to be asked back next year or whatever. In the future, he's going to be blacklisted. No, he's not. Just think about it. Think about it. Holly woke is all for this new wave, this new movement of microaggressions and being able to act out, perform acts of violence, actual physical violence against somebody who you think has microaggressed you, meaning somebody who has offended you, somebody who has said something you don't like. Hollywood or Holly woke, Holly weird, whatever you want to call it, they're all about that stuff. Hollywood is increasingly, since that Eddie Murphy bit, I feel like Hollywood is increasingly becoming hostile to great comedians, old school comedians, the comedians who, made their living observing human behavior, and everybody's open game. Everybody's open game. Like, they made their living, being equal opportunity offenders, and everybody used to laugh at it. And I think increasingly, Holly woke is becoming so overly emotional, and they are really starting. So when people say Will Smith, oh, they're gonna ostracize. They're going to blacklist Will Smith. I don't think that's gonna happen at all. That's why they stood and gave him an applause. That's why he got a standing ovation for having slapped someone who told a joke. That lets you know where they are. They applauded him for slapping someone who made him and his wife uncomfortable, who told a joke, not even like some inappropriate joke. And even if it were, he could have, like Jim Carrey said. Jim Carrey thankfully came out to Chris Rock's defense and said he should sue Will Smith. I agree. But it's this thing, like, Hollywood stood and applauded a man who assaulted another man for something he said that really it was a joke. It wasn't just some random guy. It was a joke. You sit in the front row of a show where a comedian is hosting, and you don't expect to get any jokes. Like, did Chris Rock have to submit his jokes? Some people think it was all an act. I don't, because I think I see from what I've seen, it appears to me that Will Smith is emotionally unhinged. Like, ever since he and his wife came out and aired all their laundry, and she was in these streets acting crazy, doing and all sorts of entanglements, I feel like the guy has been completely emasculated. And it seems to me like since then, every time I see him, he looks like he's on the brink of some kind of a breakdown. So I don't think it was a performance. I think he was dead serious. I really do. I think he was dead serious. I don't think they did it for ratings, because it's not going to change the ratings of the Oscars. Nobody's going to go back and watch the whole Oscar just to see that. So I don't think so. I think he was dead serious. The fact that Jim Carrey came out and basically said something about it, I think was awesome. I'm glad that somebody came out in the industry, came out and said something. But comedians are different. Comedians are a little bit different. They're not, they're actors and stuff, but a lot of comedians are actors. Actors second. Like, they're comedian first and actor second. So I think for like the old heads, like the old school guys like Seinfeld and Ricky Gervais and Jim Carrey, for them, and Dave Chappelle, like all these people, like they are not what Hollywood is today. And I think Jim Carrey said something really interesting when he was talking about the incident. He said he was like, for words. He said he smacked somebody over words. And then Jim Carrey said he realized. He said after last night he realized, and the look on his face was like, you could tell it was like this look of like defeat or something, or like total discouragement. He's like, he realized that Hollywood is no longer the place of cool people or whatever. And I think, you take that how you will, but I think what he was trying to say was, it used to be this place where you could be artistically expressive, and I might be reading too much into it, but it almost seems like he's saying Hollywood is dead. Like the Hollywood that he knew, the Hollywood that all the comedians knew, when they could come out and say what they wanted to say, and and make jokes and everybody would laugh. Like, those days are over. Like I said, I think those days we really started to see those days be over when Eddie Murphy came out with Norbit and media, and it was all the fat phobia and the anti-fat movement then. And so that was a little glimpse of what was to come. And so I just think all these older comedians are going to start being ostracized by Hollywood, and good for them. They've made their money. It might be time to start creeping on out of there, because I do think, like, Steve Harvey had a lot to say about it, and he was like, man, it was really in it. Like, what like, that is crazy over a joke. He could have pulled him to the side after the show and said, hey man, this is going on with us. Like, I didn't really appreciate that. My wife is going through. But to slap him, so people who think that they can, this is bigger issue, is that we live in a society where people think that you get to put your hands on people because they say something that you don't like. That's why everybody stood up, because and notice how they gave him a hug afterward, like he was the one that was hurt, because to them the joke, the words, was more egregious than Will Smith putting hands on somebody for the words. Think about that. They applauded a man who assaulted another man because another man said something he didn't like. So what does that tell you? They are not going to blacklist him. What that should tell you is that we are in a society where Hollywood and everybody else condones physical violence. They don't even equate. They elevate physical violence, or they equate physical violence to words. So if you say something, somebody gets to punch you in the face. If you say something they don't like, that's where we are. That's where the culture is. Now, the other thing is Will Smith, after that had the audacity to give a speech talking about he felt like he was being used by God. Well, which God? Because the God I know wouldn't condone this behavior. This is not behavior of people being used by God. Basically, he just talked about love after having smacked a man. And through that whole speech, he did not one time apologize to Chris Rock. That whole speech he gave about being a vessel for the Lord, I'm being a vessel for the lies. I feel like I'm being used by God. Well, he didn't even apologize to the man he hit. So, whatever. Yeah, comedy is over. I guess that's why I spend so much time now at the video store. Yeah, there's one still by me. A video store where I can just get old movies and watch them, and old, what would be considered super offensive, which aren't even. They won't even stream today on a lot of services because of microaggressions and racism. It's so out of control. But anyway, I hope more comedians like Jim Carrey come to his defense, come to Chris Rock's defense. Yeah, it's a shame that the whole thing was overshadowed by Will Smith with his inability to control his emotions. Who he really wanted to slap with his wife. That's who he really wanted to slap. He unfortunately took it out on Chris Rock. But that's who not that he should, but that's who he really wants. That's who he's really upset and frustrated with. Jim Carrey said that too. Maybe I'm sure he's got some frustrations. Yeah, I'll bet he does have some frustrations. Anytime somebody even mentions Jada, or he even hears her name, he probably wants to break down and curl up in the fetal position, because again, he has been emasculated. I don't think it was an act. I think it was real. I agree with Jim Carrey. I feel like Chris Rock should sue him. If he doesn't want to press charges, apparently Chris Rock doesn't want to press charges. Okay, maybe not. Maybe he doesn't want to give the guy a criminal record, but I would sue him. Chris Rock seems like, who knows? I don't know him personally, but maybe he won't sue. I don't know. But Jim Carrey's right. And for all the comedians, the real comedians, I hope they come out against it and condemn what Will Smith did. Comedians are a different breed. They're not like the actors. They are to a point, but to a point they're not. I feel like comedians are going to start being, their speech is going to be hampered even more than it has been. Especially when you talk about these comedians like Jim Carrey. I wouldn't be surprised if people started trying to blacklist Jim Carrey for saying that Will Smith was wrong, because that's the upside down world we're living in. That's the wickedness we're living in, is where good is viewed as evil, and evil is in wickedness, and sin is viewed as great. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. That's my car rant for today. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, if I don't see you before then, and I will chat with you soon. Ciao.